Musical Talk, the UK independent musical theatre podcast.
Welcome to Musical Talk. My name is Nick Hudson. I'm sat here again with Thos Ribbits. Hello, Thos.
Now, are you telling me that you're sat here again and I just happen to be here?
I'm sitting here again with Thos Ribbits.
Yes. Or is it the with me part that is the repeat? Because both are actually true, but I'm sure you've sat here without me on many an occasion.
We're going to be talking about two very big shows today.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Yes. One of which is big.
That's what I saw you do.
And the other one is even bigger.
In terms of reputation.
And scale and quality. I want to start talking about Big the Musical.
Now, at the time of recording, I am yet to see it, but shall be.
Yes.
And you have, I think.
I have seen it, yes.
Yeah. Now, had you ever seen the original film?
Yes.
Did you like the original film? It's the Tom Hanks breakout film in a way,
I
isn't it?
saw it in the 90s and kind of liked the concept and the piano scene. And I liked the musical more when our dear friend Tim introduced me to it many, many years ago and said, listen to this, because it's quite fun. I'm not that familiar with Maltby and Shire, though. I mean, the only thing I know by them is Big. I know they did another flop that was about flying, wasn't it? Or the two gentlemen in their aeroplanes. The Wright brothers did a musical of that, didn't they?
I actually don't know the answer to that. Was Big considered a flop then?
Oh, massive flop on Broadway.
A big flop?
Yes, really big flop.
So why has it been revived here in Britain then?
Well, you have to look at the time of Broadway at that time of... It was when... My theory is what happened. They were getting a bit cheesed off with the Brits. You know, Phantom, Les Mis, Cats, everything, Miss Saigon. They thought, hang on, we can do... These kind of shows. So they did Titanic.
Oh, yes.
They did Big. They did Ragtime. They did these massive kind of very American book musicals that had dialogue and were, you know, showing everyone this is our art form. Let's show the world how it's done. And I'm very glad we got Ragtime. I quite like the score for Titanic, even though you can tell it's written by Americans. Because the whole of the upper class seem to be American people. Oh,
well, fair enough. I hope they do speak with that tremendous transatlantic twang, which no one in Britain has ever used. They're kind of, oh yes, Monty do this.
I know.
It's kind of sort of sub-James Mason, but do carry on, please.
But Big was a kind of flopperoonie of them all, which is a shame because it should work as a musical. And I know the album very well. And then they changed it all when it went on an American tour about 2000 and something.
So it was reworked following its non-successful original run on Broadway.
Yes.
Right, okay.
A lot of songs were rewritten. Some went, some stayed, as happens. But they weren't really replaced with better songs. I think sometimes people just change things for the sake of, we have a star, let's give her a song. Are you a fan of the film?
I enjoy the film. A fan is a strong word. I enjoyed the film when I saw it. I've enjoyed the film when I've seen it since. It's not a film I spend a great deal of time thinking about. And I probably, like you, wouldn't have really thought very much about Big the musical, or at least going to see it, if it weren't for Tim Saywood, who... It chimes in with a lot of things that he finds very interesting, which is about innocence and childhood innocence and whether you can carry that into adulthood. And, of course, these are the themes it taps into. So there's lots of potentially very interesting, very meaty stuff. And so it is curious to know how you can do that well in a musical.
As lots of reviews have picked out, it's just a really weird story.
Well, there's a couple of scenes which are quite awkward now.
Yes.
To a modern eye, there's the sex scene.
Yes, there's
the seduction scene.
There's also the whole... You know, some critics have pointed out it's, you know, you can tell this is a 90s piece because of the office gender politics and things. And whether you choose to look at it, yes, it's a 90s piece, so we have to acknowledge that. And some people say, well, it's now, so it has to be changed entirely. You can think of that what you will. I would rather have seen the original production because it was bigger.
Which is your thing.
Which is my thing. And it had a roller coaster on stage.
Which is even more your thing.
Yes. This, and I'm a theme park fan, I'm going to admit it, this is set in the 90s. There's a massive video wall used for a majority of the sets in this show, which I find quite ugly anyway. But they had a footage of a roller coaster that only opened in 2016.
Oh, but that is something that only an expert such as yourself would spot.
But
yes,
it's still wrong.
Morally?
Yes, I was deeply offended to my core. Maltby and Shy are excellent songwriters.
Yes.
And you can tell that, whether you look at the shows of that ilk, Titanic, Ragtime, Big, it is their craft, we bow down to them. Thos is thinking, no, it's not, it's Gilbert and Sullivan's craft, and they bow down to us.
In fairness, Gilbert and Sullivan are not around at the moment to teach us anything, so I think we have to take them from the box-marked history, whereas Maltby and Shy are very much a working concern, are they not?
What's your knowledge of them?
As a writing partnership, very little off the top of my head, I must say. I'd have to research them again. I suspect it's one of those things, if you said to me, they have written X, Y, and Z, I'd go, oh, well, of course, I do know that.
I'm about to, if you can. All right. Also to say, book by Josh Weidman, who knows what he's doing when it comes to doing things like Into the Woods and things. So let's just look at David Shire. Take Flight is a musical I'm thinking of. Big... So that was Only Oh Baby. Do you know Baby?
No.
Richard Maltby, of course, has done Miss Saigon and things like that. So
that's probably ringing a bell at the back of my head somewhere.
Yeah. But a lot of off-Broadway stuff. That seems to be things like The Most Beautiful Room in New York, The Country Wife. He's done some film soundtracks. Take Flight, played at the Menier as well. Closer Than Ever is quite famous. So, kind of, I think all these off-Broadway composers, they're desperate to have that kind of big Broadway...
Well, of course. Hit.
Yeah.
Who isn't? They cannot be shamed for that. Yes, quite.
They've written musicals about it. And this, I think it's just a very hard musical to do, because like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the main character doesn't really do anything. Things just happen to him.
Yes, fairly passive in that sense.
We're the audience are kind of, he's going to get seduced. Is he going to become a kid again? And he gets a girlfriend. He meets all the friends and things. And I just think it's 10 years too late in the West End.
Marky, that's been happening a lot. Dirty Rotten Scoundrels took an awfully long time to hit London. I remember you talking to me about that in the very early days of Musical Talk, and then it only turned up about 3 years ago. As it happens, I saw it at last year, 2018's Edinburgh Festival Fringe, and thought, actually, I rather enjoyed it.
Yes, it's very you.
Yes. Is it? Thank you.
Dirty and rotten.
I am a cadaverous, old, corrupted corpse.
They never say scoundrel in the song, though. Did you notice?
I didn't. No. It was difficult to rhyme, I should have thought.
You're dirty, rotten, but they never get round to saying scoundrel. Anyway. I'm
not one of these people who needs the name of a show in a song.
Or on the curtain as you go into the auditorium, which is another thing that annoys me.
Oh, you mean when it's beamed there rather than having been embroidered in? Yes, because that would be
like Big did. We had to have Big on the set as we walked in to remind us what show we just. I think they do it for social media, to be honest with you.
I'm sure they do, because people now always take photographs of an empty stage.
Yes, I've got them on my phone at the very evening.
Yeah, well, there you are then. People do that. So you're right, that probably is a response to modern social mores.
Why Greece did it in 1992, I have no idea.
Well, people could have had a Polaroid, put it on a cleft stick and wandered around town with it. But
only you, Thos. Well, watch the birdie.
Yeah, absolutely. Very good.
It's very, very long. I mean, last week we talked about audience reactions when it came to 6, and people, saying how enjoyable it was. All I heard around me was, in the interval, this was too long.
And that's just Act 1.
Interval. The first act is an hour and a half, but it is a proper this is a proper. It's a 2-hour 45-minute
show.
So
it's the better part of 3 hours with an interval. Yeah,
yes.
That's quite.
The night I went, it was after the opening night.
Yeah,
and it's a thing apparently called the post-show opening night blues, which isn't a song that probably should be. When they're a bit kind of hungover and tired, you could say.
So basically the cast were, because they put so much in on the very first night, yes, it's understandable that perhaps it might be a little bit
And it might have been understudies and things. I don't
also,
know.
I've noticed, funnily enough, I've seen this at amateur and professional level, that you live on your nerves on the opening night. You've got through it. On the second night, you think, all right, we've licked this because we did it last night successfully. And of course, because you're no longer pumped up full of adrenaline, actually people make the occasional mistake. I've seen more mistakes on the second night than I've ever seen on an opening night. Oh, but that will all die out. You know, we understand that is a human reaction thing.
I didn't notice any mistakes, thankfully.
Good.
No one fell over or anything like that. The issue I had was that Jay McGuinness, who plays big Josh Baskin, and Kimberly Walsh, who plays the heroine, the love interest, they're not actors or singers.
No, I think he's been on Strictly Come Dancing, where he was a very accomplished dancer, I seem to remember.
Yes, and he has some wonderful dance moves, but this is a meaty character that involves...
Well, we were talking about thematically what is going on at the beginning before we even started this, didn't we? Yes, exactly. Oh, that's very interesting.
He is very, very good.
Yeah.
But he's only good, I think, because we know he's not good, if that makes sense.
Because he's not known as an actor, you're not expecting him to show off particularly adept acting chops. Is that what you're saying?
And singer.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't a popular group.
I'd expect him to carry a song. Yes, absolutely.
And he does, which is very good. But if
he's always struck me as being quite affable, a very pleasant character. What I've seen of him on television has always been very positive. So I can see that he also brings a kind of youthful appeal.
Yes.
So I can see that he might be able to play a man with a young person in the driving seat, if that makes any kind of sense.
Matthew Kelly was the surprise.
Well, he's always excellent.
He's always excellent. Yes. He plays the kind of the comedy role, I guess you could say, the kind of leader of the toy factory. He was having a ball on that stage, which was great.
Well, he's an old hand, isn't he?
Yes.
And knows his onions, to be honest. Yes, I've never seen him put in a bad performance, not just in musical theatre, but actually in theatre and on television drama. He's a rather more accomplished actor than people would imagine. And funny enough, that ties in what you were saying earlier about Jay McGuinness, in the sense that actually I think a lot of people have got hidden talents which sometimes don't come out, or are always there, but people don't see that because they're known as being, it's him from the pop group. In his case, for Matthew Kelly, it's him from, even to this
Stars
day,
in Their Eyes.
Well, I go back a generation to Game for a Laugh. Okay. So he's thought of as a presenter, but in fact, actually, he's a very accomplished actor.
I just thought this is a person I party with at Jonathan Cohen's New Year's Eve party, to be honest with you, because that's when I last saw him.
Now, I'm so sorry, I very nearly was hit by that name drop.
I know, Jonathan Cohen, who'd have thought? But I just wanted more magic from the show. And I get very excited in any credits list when it lists an illusionist to be involved. And there is an illusionist involved called Chris Fisher, who's very, very good. But we only had 2 magic tricks in this show, and that's not enough for a show that is magical. Yeah. I didn't like the reliance on video screens for scenery.
Yes, you mentioned, but that's a personal dislike, isn't it?
Yes. It had some houses that came on which were quite nice, but you expect more from the Dominion and the Palladium, and these kind of shows that have a certain
have a reputation
behind them. The audience enjoyed it. No one left, which is a good sign. I've heard it's struggling to sell, so but it's a big thing. You always forget how big the Dominion is.
Yes,
I don't know when the last time you were there, Thos.
I can't tell you, to be honest.
Grand Hotel, probably.
To be honest, I can't remember the last thing I have seen at the Dominion.
Time?
No, I never saw that.
No. We Will Rock You?
Under no circumstances.
Bat Out of Hell?
Ditto. Yes, it doesn't really put on the kind of shows I'd like to go to.
Beauty and the Beast, perhaps?
Can't remember. No, once again. This is another film musical then, isn't it, though? Yes. So it fits into that category. I mean...
And I've heard there's a very big film musical coming in next year, which I'm most looking forward to, which I think we've even mentioned on this podcast recently, is Back to the Future.
It's coming as a musical, is it?
Yes.
That's interesting.
Starting in Manchester, early 2020, and you bet I'll be there seeing that show, and then it's going to fly into the West End, quite literally, from what I've heard.
Marty, I've got the same equipment we used for Chitty Chitty Bang Bang!
It was a touring show in the West End, which is exactly what it is. Stretched a bit. I think stretched is a better name than big. Yeah. Are you looking forward to it?
I am, actually. I am looking forward to it. So I'm not going to let your review temper my own opinion on it. I look forward to seeing it. Funnily enough, I am seeing it with Tim Saywood.
Okay.
So if anyone's going to keep me cheerful
That'll be
about
an episode I can't wait to hear.
If he'll record about it. But, I think I am looking forward to it.
Yeah. It's always nice to see a new show, isn't it? That's what I enjoyed most, was I was in a theatre.
Yeah, whether it's a show I would have chosen to go and see if I hadn't been asked to go and see it is another matter. But, yes, I shall see it, and I shall let you know.
It's a classic book musical, which is what you like. Yes, you like story and characters and development and all that stuff, and it has that. Look at the book writer. They know what they're doing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I've no reason to doubt that it'll be something worthwhile. And all I can say is we shall see. As I say, at the time of recording, I haven't yet seen it, but I shall.
Last night, however, I went to see something called Mamma Mia, the Party. Now, I don't know where to start with this. I saw it with our dear friend Andrew Keating. He and I had a discussion before the show. We don't talk about the show at all because we haven't seen it, but we do have a discussion, and here it is. So we are here at the O2 seeing Mamma Mia, the Party.
Formerly the Millennium Dome. Can we talk about that?
Did you ever go? I'm here with Andrew Keating. Hello, Andrew.
Hello, Nicholas Hudson.
Did you ever go to the Millennium Dome?
I did go to the Millennium Dome.
I was talking about it with Jonathan this morning.
It's 20 years. It's the 20-year anniversary of the Millennium Dome. Did you go?
I did. I saw the baby in the middle.
Did you? I enjoyed it. I know it's got a really bad reputation.
Yeah, but you like weird things.
That's why we're doing. That's why we're together now, Nick. That's why we've known each other.
Not in that way.
Sorry.
But yes, so the Millennium Dome O2, if you don't know it, is that great big white elephant on the southeast of London, which they never know what to do with, so they've made it a kind of entertainment venue, haven't they? Which is always what it should have been, I think.
And more recently, you've been able to walk the whole way around the inside of the building. That doesn't make sense, does it? But obviously you have the arena in the middle, and half of that was restaurants, and now the other half has become an outlet shopping centre,
right?
Which is still not fully open, and so Mamma Mia the Party has also been a big part of that. So it's kind of at the start of where the outlet shopping is. But a lot of the shops aren't actually open yet, and the other thing they're working on in the exhibition space is an ABBA exhibition. So South Bank...
The ABBA Arena, they should call it.
The O2 ABBA Arena, North Greenwich. Because the South Bank Centre had an ABBA exhibition on earlier in 2019, possibly 2018 as well. Super Troopers, which was... You'd have liked it. It was fully immersive, Nick.
Well, so is this tonight?
Yes. So it's a very similar thing. But they're going to bring that here, so you'll have a whole...
ABBA Day.
You can have a whole ABBA Day.
Very expensive ABBA Day.
That doesn't open until... Do you want to talk about cost?
I want to talk quickly about... We are seeing Mamma Mia tonight. Now, you have never seen Mamma Mia on stage, have you?
But this isn't Mamma Mia.
But what is it, then?
So, as the blurb goes, it's a show, but it's not Mamma Mia.
But it's called Mamma Mia?
Yeah, it's called Mamma Mia the Party.
Okay.
It's not called Mamma Mia the show. It's called Mamma Mia the Party. So it's in the same sort of universe, but different.
Oh, okay.
So if you can imagine when we get in there, it's kind of like a large nightclub cum theatre, except that there's no fixed seats. It's set up like a restaurant.
It's dinner theatre.
It's dinner theatre. It's I guess that's what I'm expecting. From what I've seen of it, it's kind of dinner theatre. So the show goes on around you, but the show isn't Mamma Mia. So it doesn't matter if you see Mamma Mia or not see Mamma Mia, or if you like Mamma Mia or hate Mamma Mia. It doesn't make any difference. If you've seen the films, the ideas that I think they've taken from the films, it's a big fake Greek tavern.
It's a brand experience.
It's a brand experience, exactly that. So it's been open in Stockholm for about 4 years, and so they've kind of drafted in Sandy Togsvig to...
It's Norwegian.
Danish,
same thing.
How dare you?
It's all over there somewhere, isn't it?
Whatever. Anyway, so they've drafted in Sandy Togsvig to work on the English version of the Swedish script and kind of tailor the jokes. So we're kind of going into a tavern to see a show put on by the tavern owner, I guess, with food, and then a disco afterwards. What's incredibly exciting is I don't think I've ever seen you in a disco context.
And you won't tonight, because we'll leave.
Yes, you will. Yes.
Now, obviously, I'm drawn to this because I enjoy immersive experiences. I think the set design will be quite impressive. There might be a lake or something, I don't know, but
I don't believe there's a lake.
No.
Why would there be a lake?
A
in
lane
the tavern?
could be a lane page. A lake page. Lake Palmer, even. Greg Lake. Well, anyway, why are you so desperate to go to this, but yet you won't see Mamma Mia on the stage?
It's a completely different thing. There's food, for a start. There's food. I think, you see, as I understand it, the argument goes that they're trying to combine multiple experiences in one. So they're kind of saying, well, if you come here, you get a dinner, you get a show.
3-course dinner.
You get 4 courses.
4 courses. Plus
a welcome drink, I believe. We'll see when we go in. If we're wrong, we'll correct it later, but I think it's 4 courses and a drink. It doesn't come cheap.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't come cheap. I mean, I think it starts from what,
£170 each.
I think it's £150 it starts from.
And that's to sit outside.
As I understand the seating arrangements, you've got a main area downstairs and then a balcony area.
Think of it as the Albert Hall. You've got the arena, which is the floor, and then you have the stalls, which is the second level. I'm looking forward to it.
But the argument that they would put forward is, if you were trying to get a dinner, a West End show and a disco, how much would you expect to pay for that?
True. Well, most shows you get a disco at the end of it anyway. Joseph, the Mega Mix, went on for about 8 weeks.
I think where they don't take into account is that I mean, for us,
we've seen shows.
If you see, well, no, it's effectively like, we love a bargain.
Yes.
We love a bargain. We know where TKTS is. We know where Today Tix is. We know that's the thing. If you're London centric, if you live here, you know the ways to get deals in a show. So would we spend £150 on a night out? No.
Or £270 possibly.
But I would also argue we're probably not the.
They should make it.
Maybe not the market for it, Nick.
They should make it that you could tailor the event. What if I didn't want the food? Could I see it for £100?
That would be ridiculous, because the food's going to be served without. Have you ever been to the, like, one of those Pizza Express live places?
Pizza in the Park.
But for example, with those places, you can kind of book to see the act, but they really kind of push you to buy a pizza. What if you don't want a pizza? What if, like you, maybe you've been to Five Guys before, you've had your burger, you don't want your pizza, you don't want some pushy waiter going, well, are you going to buy something?
You sit here when everyone eats their pizza and you feel bad.
People are going, people are cutting up their food and smashing their plates up, and no, you don't want that. You might, if you're going to be involved, then it's much better you're doing the whole thing. If you don't want to do the disco at the end, you don't have to do the disco at the end. But are you missing part of the experience? Yes, you are missing the experience. Are you having the full time of your life? Arguably not, Nick.
Are you expecting rare ABBA songs tonight, or are you expecting all the standard hits?
It'll be. I'd be very surprised if there was anything that wasn't already in one of the 2 films.
Okay.
I mean, some of those were slightly more unusual tracks, a few, but it's going to be big songs. And
in case you haven't in case you can't tell, Andrew is a massive ABBA fan. Would you say they're your favourite band of all time? Yes.
Yeah, I think ever since 1992, from that revival, and then when Mamma Mia came along. I mean, actually, Mamma Mia itself is 20 years old. That was 1999.
God.
As well. So if you kind of think there's all, I suppose you've got that nice historical link. But the Millennium Dome /O2, 20 years old. Mamma Mia, 20 years old.
Well,
and here they are, celebrating their anniversary together, sort of.
I presume there's an interval. Might be 2 intervals, I don't know. But Andrew and I will speak to you during the show.
So long.
Farewell. So that was discussion with me and Andrew Keating. We wanted to do a kind of, as we used to do in days of yore,
a before and after?
A before and during,
yes.
And after. But you couldn't in this show because it is a party. But I want to talk about Mamma Mia as a piece because it's the 20th anniversary of Mamma Mia.
Unbelievably,
which is incredible in itself.
It really is.
It's also the 20th, as Andrew and I say, it's the 20th anniversary of the Millennium Dome, obviously, because we're 2020 coming up. you've seen... Thos and I have both seen Mamma Mia in its early days.
Yeah, I saw it very early on.
20 years ago. Can you believe that?
Well, I didn't until you mentioned it, but now I feel very old. Mamma Mia is an odd old piece. It's, at one level, it's a creaky old... And it was when it opened, it was a creaky old jukebox musical which used to shoehorn bits and pieces in to make the songs work. But, I know what you're going to say, but however, that is its charm. And if there's a musical that's going to do that, then Mamma Mia is the one, and I'm very happy with that. If they were all like that, I would find that intolerable.
I think it was... My memory of seeing it is that nothing had been done to that level of shoehorniness.
There's a sentence. And indeed a phrase. Yes, I think that's fair.
Because we had jukebox musicals like Forbidden Planet and the Buddy Holly story that kind of weren't... Yeah. You weren't twisting a story around songs. You were twisting songs into history.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think Mamma Mia really opened the door on the jukebox musical in some way, or certainly in its modern incarnation. For better or for worse...
I think for better. I think it really put another British musical on the map.
That's fair. I'm perfectly prepared to accept it, although it is a British musical in conception, if not a British musical in terms of the people who wrote it, of course.
I mean, the Swedes speak better English than most Brits anyway.
Well,
so.
That's fair, but it doesn't make them British, in fairness.
No.
I'm not going to quibble with you. The thing about it is...
The book writer and the producer and the director and all that stuff.
What it does, it's heavy-handed, but it's knowingly and winkingly heavy-handed, I think, Mamma Mia. It's got something for everyone. Obviously, it's...
Unless you're not an ABBA fan.
I quite like ABBA, of course. Who doesn't like ABBA? But
talk about craft.
Indeed, although some songs display it more than others, I think it would be fair to say.
That wasn't a demand.
Yes, don't worry. I like Mamma Mia. I like the music of ABBA. It's, as I say, it's got something for everyone. I seem to remember that... it had a plot which just about hangs together. There are shoehorny moments, exactly as you've described, where you go, oh, but then you enjoy it for what it is. There's a bevy of very attractive young ladies, if that's your bag. There's a bevy of very attractive young men, if that's your other bag. The plot just about staggers through to the end, and then you go home thinking, oh, I quite enjoyed that. I will observe that from the posters, I've always sort of kept in touch with it. Whenever I walked past it when it was in London for 1,000 years as it changed venue, I would always look at the posters.
What's the next venue, we're wondering?
Well, I'm going to take a slightly sensory detour here. The one thing I will say appears to have changed is I genuinely think this recognises the fact that it was then successful in America and the slightly more...
tanned.
Well, no, I was actually going to say puritanical approach, it's... You see, Mamma Mia, when I first saw it, made me feel European. It felt like a European musical in one level, because it's, as you say, it's set in Greece, it's written by Swedish songwriters, it's got a fairly European feel to it. It has been, I think, tailored ever so slightly, tweaked and twiddled for an American audience, because it's been a massive success over there, and quite right too. But this is a silly thing, it's a throwaway, but I think it's also interesting at one level. And it is this, that there's that ridiculous pearl diving scene where part of the stag night, all the young hunks, the beaux, the chaps, they all go for this swim. And
in their 1920s swimming costumes.
Well, no, but they're actually wearing what I would call square-cut Speedo trunks. Not Speedos, but square-cut trunks. Lycra, basically. Perfectly pleasing on the eye, once again, if you like that kind of thing. I've noticed that they now wear baldies and shorts in the advertising, and there's no obvious reason for that, except that I suspect that's become much more apparent. So I'm wondering, bearing in mind that there was a film later on...
What do they wear in the film? That's what we have to...
Well, I think they almost... I don't know, I've not seen the film. Or the sequel. And I'm not prepared to sit through it for swimming trunk research. Or maybe I am. But...
Trunkology.
There is, I'm sure, a field. Yes, I'll have to look into that, as they say.
Open the drawers on that one.
Hey, but it's a nothing point. It means nothing. I'm not making any real observation except to say that I have noticed. I think its presentation has become slightly more geared towards an American audience, which has then rebounded back into the British production. I'm basing this on, basically on a series of advertising posters and pictures outside a cinema, outside a theatre, which I walked past for about 10-15 years and noticed that it was, as the cast changed, things were changing ever so slightly.
Years.
Well, that's true, of course, yes. And it wasn't just the trunks. I'm picking it up because it's of an area of interest for me. But more importantly, it is actually just symbolic of the whole feel.
Did you see it at the Prince Edward Theatre
when it first opened?
Yes, because I did.
Is that where it opened? Because I saw it where it opened. Because I was literally there in the first month or so.
I saw it there as well, and that was 20 years ago. My guess is, and I haven't seen it since, and I would be interested to go and see it because I bet it has changed beyond belief.
Oh, I'm sure that's true.
Unrecognisable now.
Well, also, yes, let's be honest, it's been running a while as well. So, I think it's fair to say that when Chicago was in London for 12 years, or however long it was,
38,000 years, wasn't it?
Well, it started feeling a little tired towards the end, and there was some stunt casting. People off of reality television shows ended up in it and could sing perfectly well, but they couldn't act, which is a theme we've been discussing today. I agree with you. I suspect Mamma Mia has, the stage version has probably been warped because of its worldwide success, so it's become much less British, much less European, much more American-esque. But also, I bet it's been bent out of shape again when the film came out. None of this is bad, it just is what it is. I'm not making a judgment on this, but I think you're right. I bet it has moved on. Audiences move on as well. I very much enjoyed Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, which I always think of as an odd kind of sister piece. I know it's not at all, but it's in a similar vein and taps into a similar interest and things like that. It's a certain bounce and joy to those two pieces, I think. Priscilla I saw once again very early on when it opened and enjoyed immensely. I then went 2 or 3 years later. I still enjoyed it, but the audiences had become much more hen-nighty. All the people who were going to see it and see it once had done so, and it was now really there for the tourists to London, tourists from Britain as well as from abroad. And it was just a bit screechy because the audience was a bit screechy, joining in and singing along, etc., etc. So,
including you.
No, I don't think so. Quite cheekily, I remember a former colleague on Musical Talk, Josh Boyd Rochford. Yeah. I remember him saying that he used to count. He was called up as a member of the audience to do that little bit in Priscilla, where they sort of dance on the stage.
Still haven't seen it.
All right, there's a little bit where some members of the audience
don't spoil it.
Are called up onto the stage, and he said, "I'm going to use that as my West End debut."
So, Mamma Mia is a brand, as Andrew and I said.
I think that's fair.
And now we have Mamma Mia, the party, the immersive experience.
Have you got any pearls?
No. I got sand in my shoes last night. Not literally, but I might as well. It was so immersive last night.
I will just say briefly, this is a song you won't ever have heard of, but that's a song from the 1920s, 30s called Sand in My Shoe.
Okay. Thank you for that, Thos.
It's a pleasure. It's actually a great song.
Andrew and I rocked up at the O2, which is far away from everything as far as I'm concerned.
Which is the Millennium Dome, also of 20-year anniversary.
And we got in a very long queue, an hour.
That is a long queue.
To get into this taverna.
Which is the central point of that's where the party is, isn't it? Yeah.
And it's the most beautiful set design I've ever seen in my entire life. And I love all this immersive stuff. I know it's a word that gets chucked around more than the rugby ball does, but it's, this was a 360 experience. And it is the most bonkers thing I've ever seen in my life. What it does, when you see Mamma Mia, everyone kind of sits there and waits for the finale, which is, when you get the big mega mix at the end. What this show does is it takes the finale and gives you 3 hours of finale.
I mean, let's just go for devil's advocacy here. Isn't that a bit much?
With intervals in between, and food, and drink. So it is a party. It's not you're not sitting in the silence watching a story. There is a sort of a story. It's less sensical than the actual Mamma Mia story. So this isn't the Mamma Mia story, which she's still not looking for the three fathers. The story is, we are guests at this taverna on the actual island where they filmed Mamma Mia.
Oh, so it's one step removed.
Yes.
So it knows that Mamma Mia is a film. You're not in the Mamma Mia world.
No.
Ah, now that's quite interesting.
So they are preparing for an ABBA party that night. And the woman who runs the taverna was the costume designer for the film. Not literally, but it regards the story. I have to say this is a Swedish idea. It's not British, but it was adapted by Sandy Toksvig, who's Norwegian. For Danish, same thing. It's all over there, isn't it?
Absolutely not the same thing.
Well, she thinks it is. She said, all Scandinavians are that we all have the same party atmosphere. We all like a party and things. So it's.
Is she represented at the party then?
No, but she. I was reading about the history of the piece. So she adapted the script.
Yes.
Or script in a loose sense of the word.
The storyline. Yeah.
Yes. So the first 2 acts are a bit of drama happening behind the scenes at the taverna, which is...
Yeah.
And they intersperse. This show has 35 ABBA songs in it.
Good Lord. Well, you did say it was 3 hours.
4 hours. If you count everything.
Right.
It's a very, very long evening. You're there at 6, you leave at 10:30 at night. It is... It's also starting at £150 a ticket. Now, this is the bugbear that people have with this show.
Yeah, I can understand why.
But you get a show, you get a 4-course meal thrown in a beautiful setting. The cast and band are working their socks off. And then you get a discotheque at the end of it.
Now, can I ask, it's called The Party.
Yes.
And obviously there's stuff going on, but is it like a party where you're actually talking to people, you're bumping into people you don't know, you're talking, you're mixing all the way through, or just in the discotheque? Or
they will sit you with people. If you go as 2, as Andrew Keating and I did yesterday, we sat next to 2 people we didn't know at all, and we were chatting away like we'd been
friends. Yeah, but that was dining table time. Any other time? You didn't circulate in the mass? Or?
No, what you do at the disco afterwards is beyond you. But yes, they have bigger tables, and you will be sat with people you don't know, and it's a wonderful... I see... Thos, your toes are curling as I speak. I don't like that stuff either, but there's something... It's just bonkers this evening.
So it's worth it for the experience?
Oh, there's fire, explosions, there's aerial acrobatics, there's gymnastics, there's people in wetsuits with flippers bouncing downstairs.
So the various references from the piece are fused in.
It has elements of pantomime. They have song cards at some point during Waterloo when we have to do the sing-along. In the menu, the lyrics for Waterloo are printed. There's audience interaction. Very pantomime-y. It's very funny. The songs are good.
Yeah.
If there's a song 3 minutes later, there's going to be another song that was even better than one you just heard.
I do hope that Pierce Brosnan was there to sing one of them.
Oh, God, and Russell Crowe. What Andrew found really shocking was that there were a lot of album hits. And there were a lot of ABBA songs that one didn't know, and they're still brilliant songs.
Oh, so I see what you mean by that. You mean the ones that didn't always make it to the top of the charts.
Yes.
But, but they were, as you said, the writers of ABBA were genuinely great craftsmen, still are genuinely great craftsmen.
Very musical theatre.
And let's just say chess briefly. Yeah. But yes, so I couldn't agree more with you. So there's no reason to think that the speech marks, the lesser numbers in the canon, are anything other than brilliant. Not that they were on albums, but it's the same with Gershwin. I find I can find a Gershwin album, by which I mean an album of a Gershwin show, and the songs which are for the second comedy couple or some filler in Act 2 are all good as well.
Yeah.
There's where quality is,
and that's. You bring up Gershwin, there have been many new Gershwin musicals.
There have indeed, yeah.
This is the 3rd musical of Mamma Mia.
Right, delineate that. You mean there's Mamma Mia, the original one,
yeah.
Then the film presumably counts as the second one?
No, I count the film sequel as the second one.
Right, okay.
And now there's this one.
Oh, I see, right, it's fine. Yes, that makes sense, right.
And that's never really happened.
Now let's think.
Where a musical is more of a brand than a musical. Because you have such a good back catalogue of songs that are so well written, you can associate them with any situation.
Yes, I suppose that's true. I'm just trying to think of... I mean, first of all, there aren't that many musicals that have sequels at all anyway, but let's go for Phantom of the Opera and Love Never Dies,
You're not going to go with Annie?
I could do, and we might talk about that in a minute, but the thing about Phantom is that obviously Lloyd Webber wrote a set number of songs. There will undoubtedly be songs that were cut. We know that, But actually, you couldn't easily do an immersive situation with song after song after song. Well, you can with ABBA because they've got 10 years worth of prolific writing.
Yeah.
Annie, of course, you're quite right, has got 3 different musical versions, and I'm not talking about the films. I'm talking about Annie 2, and Annie Warbucks. So immediately there are 3 there in that sequence. Not that they were all successful by any means, but once again, I first of all, why would you go to an Annie immersive party? Annie is an orphan.
You're all made to clean the floor at
yeah,
once.
Exactly. To be abused by Ms. Hannigan, it doesn't strike me as a.
What immersive musicals would you like to see, Thos?
None. I don't want to go to immersive musicals. I don't much like immersive theatre. I have been
out.
I have been to some immersive theatre. I saw a show at the Battersea Arts Centre a few years ago, which was about a fictional state called Sampakhaya. And halfway through the show, there was a coup, and the government was taken over. And some of us were apparently, we were bundled off with the rebels. And so, what I remember about that is we were put in a back room and didn't see the end of the piece. But
the immersive piece that has been done that's not even a sentence. The immersive piece that has been done that I would like to see is Cabaret.
As in, someone has done Cabaret as a cabaret?
Didn't Sam Mendes do it at Studio 54 in New York and you all sat at tables and things like that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But
that was a rhetorical question.
But how would you end it? You'd have to strip out the narrative of the. I mean, I don't know how it was done. You could take the songs from Cabaret and make it a cabaret. Whether that's a very sensible or wise thing to do, I don't know.
It. So, Mamma Mia lends itself to this because it knows it's silly.
Yes, I think you've got to go in with your tongue in cheek, and it knows it's got its tongue in its cheek. Yeah,
we'd never ever reviewed food on the podcast, but this is a big thing about it. You do have a 4-course meal, and the food was not airline fodder like I was expecting. It was actually extremely quality food, all added to the immersion. It was Greek, salads and octopus and meze platters and what have you.
Halfway decent restaurant fare.
Yes.
Yeah. Not cunningly punned names on Waterloo melon or.
No. But it was just.
Sorry, super trooper of the day. Anyway,
the production values were astonishing.
But is that because of infrastructure, in the sense of that they have turned the O2 into a.
Well, it's not the O2 Arena. We will say that.
No,
this is an old nightclub in the O2 next to Harvester.
All right, okay. But presumably it's been made to look like this taverna, and therefore actually that automatically makes it feel like the venue it's supposed to be.
It's the fact that you have flames coming out of the floor, and you have aerial gymnastics, and you have a fountain in the middle of the courtyard that does a water show, and you have excellent sound and excellent lighting, and a massive glitter ball comes down.
It's a series of sketches in real terms, though, isn't it? Kind of thing.
Yes, of course. You're sitting there, a bit like Six, really. You're just waiting for the next song to come along.
Are you aware of the concept of the pleasure garden in this country?
Yes.
As in the precursor to the musical?
And the theme park.
Indeed, of course. It heads off in both different directions. You're probably aware that the second oldest pleasure gardens in the world are in Copenhagen.
Tivoli.
The Tivoli Gardens, absolutely. I've had the pleasure of being there.
You've been to a theme park? I haven't, Thos.
Well, you see, I don't think of it as a theme park.
It's considered a theme park now, which is what's interesting.
I consider it to be a pleasure gardens, but it's interesting that the way you're describing that the Mamma Mia immersive experience has got. The idea that there's a fountain.
Yeah.
Because there was a water display in their lake in the Tivoli Gardens when I went, which culminated with a laser show and some fireworks and music. We didn't have aerial dancing, or aerobics or gymnastics or whatever they are. But there was
aerial came later. When kept Little Mermaid.
Yes, well, you're entirely welcome to keep that if you like. But the thing I liked about it was a mixture of what you might call a theme park. Yes, there were roller coasters and arcadey things, but there were also remnants of the original pleasure gardens that were just nice gardens. There were a number of small theatres. Shrek was playing, as it happened, in one of them. Well, there were lights, there were animals, there were just fun things all over the place, and you just wandered around and were amused by the things, but it was very sketchy. And the way you're describing this is the reason I've been remembering the Tivoli Gardens is because the way you're describing this Mamma Mia show, it sounds like you had the opportunity to see a little bit here and a little bit there, and it, whatever tickled your fancy.
Every seat has a good view because the whole thing happens around you. There'll be actors, coming up to you and invite you to dance and things like that. So it's very, very. It did feel like a party. It was immersive.
Yeah. There's no party like an S Club 7 party.
I know. There's no party like a Mamma Mia party either. It was just so enjoyable. And I think it's no coincidence that they've started it in September, when it's getting a bit darker.
Yes, it's an enclosed environment, isn't
and
it?
the Christmas party season has started. The corporate party season has started. The office party season. And this, at the moment, it's meant to be playing until February. I see this never closing.
Well, that's interesting. I don't have a view on it. It sounds interesting. It doesn't sound like the kind of thing I would enjoy particularly. I would want to ask you one detail. You said there were lots and lots and lots of ABBA songs, including some of the lesser-known ones.
Yes.
But were they recorded and piped in?
No.
So it wasn't the original ABBA stuff. It was that there were people singing, so they're actual performers.
Actor musicians.
Very good, lovely, fine. Well, that makes it better. So who are doing it as part of the Taverna cast, as
which
it were.
always amazes me because they're playing it from memory. And I was chatting to someone from the cast on Facebook, funny enough. I was saying, excellent job, so well done. It's amazing that you've learned all the... She was playing guitar, bass, mandolin and piano and things.
Not all at once.
All at the same time. Yes. And mostly guitar. And I was, it's so amazing you learned it all. She said, yes, learn the instrument parts, learn the harmony parts. You've also got to learn the choreography. I got to learn how to pronounce it first. Then you also have to navigate yourself around the restaurant floor, which is a completely different ball game entirely. Because could you imagine doing a show on stage with the audience
with you,
all on the stage with you?
No, is the answer to that. It's interesting. I wonder. I hope for her sake that the contract is a nice lengthy one, i.e. that they're not on 2 or 3 month contracts. But in fact, they're there till February and with an extension, because that's a lot of dedication they've had to put in to bring themselves up to that level. Yeah. And hopefully it'll pay off for them.
It's such a show, and we all know how much I like spectacle. I'm looking at Moulin Rouge on Broadway and hoping that comes over here, and Beetlejuice and all these.
You know it won't.
Well, I hope so.
I've been waiting for How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, and revival after revival after revival on Broadway. And we still got our 1969 one as our last.
I saw it at Festival Hall.
Well, I've seen it at Wilton's as well. We do get professional versions, but not the Broadway version.
But yes, I mean, this is very much my kind of show. I don't think you would enjoy it, Thos, because it's not your kind of show. But
I'm glad it exists.
It is so many people's kind of show. And it's like when one goes to Disneyland and you wear your Disney clothes and you don't feel like an idiot. Here, you can...
There's so much to unpack in that sentence.
Not me.
You wear your Disney clothes.
Well, you wear your Mickey ears. You wear your Disney tops.
Do you wear Mickey's short trousers with the big buttons?
No.
But do you wear Minnie Mouse's enormous shoes, as referenced by Elaine Stritch in Elaine Stritch at Liberty, I should say?
What I mean is, if you go to something like this, you don't feel embarrassed to let your hair down and have a feather boa and the stag and hen, mostly hen, party crowd. That they would enjoy it, but.
You've got to release yourself into the environment you've brought yourself into, I suppose. Yes. And I'm far too reserved to do that. But it's interesting that you could. So
I'd love to see you there, Thos. It's like Andrew said to me, I just want to see you dance, Nick. I said, but it's not going to happen tonight. And I left the minute that disco started.
That's the right answer.
Thank you. But yes, that's the shows I've been to see. And what are you're seeing big soon? Anything else?
I'm seeing Falsettos.
Okay. Andrew Corcoran is the MD of that show, of course. So
I shall say hello then.
Yes.
And I'm also seeing, just before it closes, Adrian Mole.
Oh, very nice.
I like Sue Townsend, the late Sue Townsend. I think she's a great writer. They're not books I'd revisit, but I'm looking forward to see what Jake and Pippa have done with them, because I'm a great Jake and Pippa fan.
Lovely. They're very nice. They're extremely talented. Hope you enjoy it, Thos, and look forward to hearing your thoughts on that.
I should be glad to share them.
Thos, thank you so much.
Great pleasure.
And we'll have you on again soon.
Well, thank you very much, kind sir.
You're welcome. Goodbye. For more information about Musical Talk, please visit our website at musicaltalk.co.uk. You can email us at feedback@musicaltalk.co.uk, listen to past episodes on iTunes and YouTube, and follow our social media channels on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.